King John inflicted an agonizingly slow death on Maude de Braose and her son William, a cruelty that spanned days and ended in tragic irony. Instead of sending a message of deterrence to his barons, the monarch's actions drove them into civil war. The brutal killing of Maude and her son even influenced the Magna Carta, with one clause directly linked to this horrific event. Maude, also known as Matilda de Valery, achieved legendary status in her time. Tales claimed she built the Castle of Hay in a single night using only her hands, supposedly carrying stones in her skirt. Although likely exaggerated, this story may contain a kernel of truth, as she is believed to have commissioned a new archway for a tower. But back to her story. Maude's husband William, the fourth Lord of Bramber, had long been one of the king's favoured allies. He may even have played a role in one of history's enduring mysteries, the rumoured murder of John's nephew Arthur, potentially at the king's request. For years, the two men seemed inseparable, yet around 1207, their relationship soured unexpectedly. The rift, according to legend, came down to a single remark from Maude that escalated the situation beyond repair. William was born in either 1144 or 1153 and inherited significant lands through both his parents. From his father, whom he was named after, he received the Rape of Bramber in Sussex, while his mother's lineage granted him extensive holdings in the Welsh Marches. William soon established a reputation for ruthlessness, particularly through his role in the notorious Abergavenny massacre of 1175. In this event, he orchestrated the killing of 3 Welsh princes and several other high-ranking nobles, whom he blamed for his uncle Henry's death. Under the pretense of celebrating Christmas and making peace, he invited these nobles to Abergavenny Castle, only to have them assassinated. This act earned him the grim moniker Ogre of Abergavenny in Wales. Even for King Henry II, who was not generally opposed to violent methods, William's actions went too far, and Henry withdrew his favour from the family. Gerald of Wales was among those who attempted to rehabilitate William's reputation, emphasising the piety of both William and his wife Maude, whom he had married around 1166. However, their rehabilitation only succeeded after Henry's death. Both Richard I and John found William useful, not for his piety, but for his willingness to resort to violence. William fought alongside Richard on several occasions and was present at the king's side when Richard, the Lionheart, was fatally struck by a crossbow. William also served John multiple times in France, likely even in 1203, when Arthur, John's nephew, and a potential claimant to the throne, died under suspicious circumstances in Rouen. Arthur, the son of John's elder brother Geoffrey, was seen by many Englishmen as the rightful king, as Geoffrey had died before Arthur was born. Speculations swirled that William, rather than being a mere witness, might have carried out the murder himself. After all, it wouldn't be history documentaries and more video if it weren't for an uncle and his nephew fighting for the throne. Whether William personally killed Arthur remains speculation. Still, his proximity to the event and his knowledge of what actually happened made him a threat to John. Aware of this, William tried to assure John of his loyalty, but his efforts were undermined by his wife, who, fearing for their son's safety, blurted out a careless remark that would have lasting consequences. Years before the eventual rift with King John, Gerald of Wales described Maude with high regard. She was, I say, a prudent and chaste woman, well equipped to rule her household, as highly skilled in preserving her property within doors as in increasing it out of doors. Maude was not only intelligent and chaste, but also adept at both maintaining and expanding her possessions. Her ability to control her household can likely be understood in military terms as well. For instance, while her husband was in Normandy with Richard, she successfully defended Payne's Castle against a major Welsh assault, earning it the nickname Maude's or Matilda's Castle. Maude was often described as vigorous, embodying the type of character from which legends are made. It is no surprise that she became a prominent figure in Welsh folklore, though her tragic end also contributed to this mythic status. This brings us to her defiant stance against King John. When her husband's relationship with the king fell apart, John demanded the couple's eldest son as a hostage. According to Roger of Wendover, Maude rejected this demand with a scathing retort. "I will not deliver my sons to your lord King John, for he foully murdered his nephew Arthur, whom he should have cared for honorably." The exact reasons for William and King John's enmity in 1207 or 1208 remain unclear, though it was likely triggered by unresolved debts. William still owed the king 5,000 marks for lands the monarch had granted him, a sum that had remained unpaid for some time. Additionally, William's son, Giles, was among the bishops who approved an interdict against John, which may have further fueled the king's paranoia and suspicion of William's loyalty. Combined with William's knowledge of Arthur's fate, the situation became too volatile for John. In response, John demanded the couple's eldest son as a hostage, aiming to secure William's loyalty and send a stern message to his other barons about the seriousness of his authority. This demand prompted Maude's previously noted defiant reaction. Realizing they were now in serious trouble, William publicly reprimanded his wife for her remark. Despite the tension, the couple attempted to appease the king by sending gifts to the royal court. Maude, for instance, sent Queen Isabella a herd of cows and a prized white bull. However, these gestures were to no avail. John seized the family's estates, forcing William and Maude to flee to Ireland with two of their sons. They sought refuge with their son-in-law, Walter de Lacy, at Trim Castle. Yet even in Ireland, they were not safe. John raised an army, compelling other nobles to join him. In desperation, William sent Maude and their eldest son, also named William, to Scotland, while he stayed behind in an attempt to negotiate with the king. Tragically, Maude and her son were captured in Galloway, Scotland, by Duncan of Carrick. They were shackled and taken to England, where they were handed over to John's men. Initially, John imprisoned them in Bristol Castle, gaining a powerful bargaining position over William. He demanded a ransom of 40,000 marks for Maude and her son's freedom, as well as a pardon for William. To put this into perspective, this ransom was almost a third of what England had recently paid Emperor Henry for King Richard's release, a sum that had nearly bankrupted the kingdom. Raising such an amount was entirely out of William's reach. The ransom was therefore never paid. John first transferred Maude and her son to Windsor Castle and then moved them to Corfe Castle, where their horrific fate was ultimately sealed. While some accounts place this tragedy at Windsor, most sources identify Corfe Castle as the site. Only the anonymously written primary source, History of the Dukes of Normandy and the Kings of England, provides specific details, which are typically treated with skepticism. Yet the public outcry at the time was so intense that it lends plausibility to the account of extreme cruelty. John had Maude and her son confined to a cell, where they were given a sheaf of wheat and a flitch of uncooked bacon. Then the cell was sealed off, stone by stone, as any hope of their release faded. They knew that the king was known for starving his enemies, as he had previously done with knights captured at Mirabeau. After 11 days, the wall was dismantled to reveal the grisly scene inside. According to the chronicler, the guards saw this. On the 11th day, the mother was found dead between her son's legs, still upright, but leaning back against her son's chest as a dead woman. The son, who was also dead, sat upright, leaning against the wall as a dead man. So desperate was the mother that she had eaten her son's cheeks. When William de Braose, who was in Paris, heard this news, he died soon afterwards, many asserting that it was through grief. This account also touches on Maude's husband William. After a brief stay in Wales, he fled to France. He died in 1211, a year after the murder of his wife and son. It is said that before his death, William recorded what he knew of Arthur's fate. If this document ever existed, it is now lost, or perhaps deliberately destroyed. We will explore Arthur's story in a separate video. John believed that the brutal fate of the de Braose family would serve as a stark warning to his barons, compelling their loyalty. He was correct only in his assumption that their fate would shock the kingdom. Instead of cowing the nobility, the incident intensified the barons' resentment, leading to open conflict. This civil war, ultimately won by the nobility, resulted in the Magna Carta, a document whose enduring historical significance is evident by its continued renown. Clause 39 of the Magna Carta is directly linked to the tragic story of Maude and her son. It states, "No man shall be taken, imprisoned, outlawed, banished, or in any way destroyed, nor will we proceed against or prosecute him, except by the lawful judgment of his peers or by the law of the land." Maude and her son had never stood trial or been formally judged. Their deaths were the result of unchecked cruelty, an act of arbitrariness that the Magna Carta sought to prevent from ever happening again. It appears that John may have felt a sliver of remorse for his actions. He permitted Margaret, the couple's daughter, to dedicate a religious house in memory of her parents and brother on October 10th, 1216. Within 8 or 9 days, the king himself had died. Perhaps in his final days, he sought to ease his conscience. Whether he succeeded, however, remains for you to judge. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to support the growth of this channel.